All right, here we go.
Let's go.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
Hello?
Hello. We are live.
Back at it again. What's
Back
up?
at it again.
How we doing, Connor?
We're doing well.
We're doing well. That's good.
Another Wednesday.
Another Wednesday indeed.
And yeah, I don't know. Anything going on with you before we deep dive into our...
Just working away. And just...
So what episode is this?
This is episode 98.
98, which means we got episode 99.
And then episode 100, the triple digits. You ever think we were going to get that far?
No, I did not.
Yeah, me neither.
Here we are. We have an interesting episode lined up for
The next two episodes, even.
Different than our usual.
Yeah.
And I think episode 100 will be not what people would expect, I think.
No, I don't think they're expecting it, which is even
makes it
better.
more fun.
Exactly.
But yes, today we will definitely have a more targeted episode, unlike us.
Exactly.
I've actually been looking back at some of our episodes, and it's kind of funny. So we have not quite updated as often now, but we used to have a Google Doc that Matt would update just with just points of just like, hey, we talked about this, and this. And if you ever go back to that doc, it's kind of funny reading, and it's like, okay, so obviously the title usually has something to do with the main topic.
Yeah.
But sometimes the points, it's like, say it's a topic we're talking about Marvel, MCU related. Then all of a sudden in your points, there'll be something along the lines of Batman, something, something, something. And you're like, okay. And then there's something about random anime, maybe Star Wars. And you're like, okay, I thought the MCU.
It starts off. Yeah, it starts with MCU, and then it just goes off. And I think
there's a good chunk of episodes where you can tell it's like a roller coaster almost, where you're like on track, and then all of a sudden you're like,
just derails completely.
Whoa. And then
we bring it back.
And then whoa.
Yeah.
So
I think that's just our style, though. I think that's how it's been.
It's pretty funny looking back. But today, I actually have something that'll be a great opening for what we're getting into. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when
they made live actions.
Ayo.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about the live action Avatar: Last Airbender show. Now, if you want
the Netflix live action series.
Exactly. Now, if you want your opinion on, if we want our opinion on the animated show, you can check back on episode 39. That's just under 60 episodes ago.
Where we have Gray on.
Yeah.
We actually haven't had on for a while, so maybe we'll have to reach out, have him on again. But he happens to be a massive Last Airbender fan.
Yep.
Big
fan.
I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan, but I've seen the series multiple times.
Yeah.
I will say, going into watching the live action series, I have not watched the series recently.
I haven't watched it since episode 39 of our podcast.
But you watched it.
Yeah.
Like, that was your first time watching it, at least.
That was 59 weeks ago, dude.
Fair enough. But yeah, so it's been a while since I've seen the live action. So when it comes to the changes, I was not as particular or nitpicky as I feel
hardcore
a lot of the internet was. Yeah. So we are going into this as not hardcore fans. Also, we're going to try and find positives.
There's definitely positives.
As well as negatives.
A lot of those.
We're going to give it a fair shake.
Yes.
So, do we try and do a compliment sandwich?
I guess so.
For those unaware, classic technique when it comes to critiquing people This is good for if you're a manager, supervisor, teacher, etc.
Yikes.
Is a compliment sandwich. You start with good, give your criticism, end with something bad, or end with something bad, end with something good, unless it's just all bad. In which case,
Which it wasn't.
It wasn't all bad. I feel like people were maybe, I don't want to say harsh, but they were definitely overcritical.
Yeah.
In some moments, it was justified, and in others, not as much. I think, is that fair to say?
Yeah. That's justified.
Now, it's not a very high bar, but it was better than the original live action movie.
Oh, yeah. It's not a tough bar, though.
So, but it is a preset bar. We have a live action version, technically.
True.
And it was better. It kind of reminds me of
Percy Jackson, in a way.
yeah, Percy Jackson or the series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
The movie tried to fit way too much in it. Also, just was not following the source material well at all. Where this one's at least better spread out. I do think it's hard to say because if you want episodes to have a good flow, pacing wise, it makes sense to do what they're doing because the series did get announced that it will be doing renewed for season 2 and 3.
Season 2 and season 3, yeah.
Which are the following 2 books. So they did a book per season. And in terms of pacing, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
As much as I would like a lot more of the content to be explored within the first book, from a pacing per episode, it kind of makes sense.
Well, saying 8 is a solid episode. Like, I don't, if they were to do a 9th episode, I just don't know.
Things got to get cut.
That's what I mean. At the end of the day, things got to get cut.
And the one thing that the animated series has over is that you can have a 20-minute episode covering one thing.
Yeah.
When you're doing a 40 to an hour episode,
it's got to have a full flow of a story.
Yeah, you can't just cover. If you cover just 3 random things, it doesn't have as good of a flow to it.
Exactly. It becomes choppy, right?
So it's very hard. Writing series is hard, especially when it's a series that has such a dedicated fan base and has.
You want to try and make everyone happy.
Has source material to go by.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, obviously, we've talked about this before, but the original creator was originally brought on.
Yep.
And then left due to creative differences. We haven't looked into specifically. I don't even know if it's actually out, what that was. Usually when that happens, that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. The drama ends there. It's just kind of, now it's up to people to be like, oh no.
Yeah.
And I will say, that was pretty much my reaction when it first came out. And
yeah.
I feel like that was a lot of people's reaction because that was the one saving grace, I feel like, for the series was the original creators there to help guide the path.
Exactly.
And then they were gone. And was it 1-for-1 animated series to live action?
No.
No, not even close.
No.
There were a lot of differences. And we could probably do a 2 to 3 hour episode if we really wanted to deep dive and nitpick every single difference. But we're not going to do that.
Yeah, so let's talk about a few of the things we didn't like.
No, we're starting with a compliment sandwich. You have to say something you like.
Okay, gosh.
Okay, so I'm going to say something I like. You can say something
you
like.
Cool.
I thought overall the fight choreography was solid.
Yes.
I thought a lot of the bending looked good. There are some nitpicks, which I'll mention later, about some of the bending. But for the most part, I thought a lot of the fire bending looked pretty sick. The air bending looked sick. Water bending looked cool. Earth bending was pretty solid too. So and the fight and the actual fight choreography was overall solid. So I have no complaints. That's pretty important for an action series, especially a series that's so heavily focused around this power system. You gotta get that right.
You gotta nail that, yeah. For me, I'd say the fictional creatures overall looked really well done. I think Momo, Appa, I thought those looked really good, for example.
They looked better than I expected.
Yeah. The badgers looked pretty cool. Even what's his name? The faceless one.
Yeah,
I thought those were pretty good too.
I thought the only one that didn't look good was the
bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that one looked a
little weird.
More, it stood out more and felt really out of place. I don't know if that's just backgrounds or that specific creature CGI work.
But overall, I thought they were like Appa and Momo looked really.
The moving background when they're flying on Appa, I didn't think was great.
That's fair.
But Appa overall looked
solid,
which I agree. So those were some positives.
I have more positives, but you know.
Do you have enough positives that you can still end off on positives?
Moving on.
Okay, so we'll get into some of the negatives.
Well, no, actually,
let's start from the beginning of the show then. So, right off the rip, we're already starting off different than the series, which I feel like was not a good start because as people who are doing a nerdy podcast, when it comes to source material, this goes for Star Wars content, this goes for anime, manga to anime, this goes for Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
You got to start off strong.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the best way to do that when you have a dedicated fan base that's already established, you gotta. It almost feels like you're forced to start word for word going in. And Avatar does not start that way.
See, I'm playing devil's advocate for here because from a story standpoint, I understand why they did this.
I do too.
Because,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, when you have a dedicated fan base,
when you
100%.
have that pre-established fan base,
but
think about when you go on my anime list. Episode 1 of a series that has 36 episodes. People are already writing reviews. This series is garbage, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, 100%.
That means I guarantee there was already people who were turning it off and being like, nope.
Oh.
They lost it.
Exactly.
They lost the plot. They didn't follow.
No, I 100% agree with that from the huge fan base that it has. But you also have to, when you're dealing with shows like this, you have to ride this fine line of what's going to be good for a lot of the fans to continue watching. But if you look at the story from Last Airbender and you're watching someone who's never watched the animated show and you don't reveal that stuff and it starts off small and you're halfway through the first episode and like Aang's now awake and everything, the Fire Nation's coming. The question is that you're like, from a standpoint of who's someone who doesn't know any of the context, why do you care about this kid? You know, when you start off with such a big thing of like Fire Nation attacks, all these people are dead, he's the last surviving person, it grabs your attention for the casual viewer, in my opinion.
It was a lot better for people that have no idea what the series is. And part of what's going on, I think they similarly with One Piece, is you're trying to get new people as well.
Exactly.
You're kind of hoping that those pre-established people will give it a chance, and then you're trying to bring in new fans.
Exactly.
Now, one thing I definitely would have changed, though, in the first episode is I would have had the original opening go.
Yep.
I would have had word for word the original opening play before we dive into the flashback that it starts with.
Okay.
And I think that just get that nostalgia going for those people. And it is still a great way to set up the series as a whole. And then you just go, you know, this before Discovery or something like that. You can say like, you know, so many 100 years before Aang's discovery.
Yeah.
Current time or whatever. And okay, so obviously spoilers ahead if we haven't mentioned it already. But in the first episode, it does the whole air nomad eradication to start off the series.
Yeah.
And like Matt said, it was honestly not a bad way to start the series to really, there's a lot going on really quick. It kind of starts with a Death Star plan-esque feel. And then an Uno reverse card was played. But the air nomads get taken out. You see Aang suffer. Well, you don't see him suffer because he has no idea it happened. But we see him being named the Avatar, being recognized as the Avatar, and he dips. Which is technically different if we want to be...
Technicalities.
In this live action, it makes it seem more like it's absolutely running away. It isn't. And in the animated series, it's played off as he needed time to think.
I think it's the other way around, isn't it?
No, he definitely ran away in the animated series. Or in the live action, sorry. Okay. Live action ran away. Animated series needed time to clear his mind. Which, in a way, we're talking about a kid.
Yeah.
In a way, very similar things.
Exactly.
And then, obviously, he has ice and the storm and becomes in the frozen, whatever. Anyways, so I thought it was a solid way to set it up. and gives you kind of an idea of Aang. He's young. He just wants to have his friends hang out. He doesn't want to be this chosen one, this different person. And it's a lot of responsibility to deal with. I thought they handled some of that decently well. The one big nitpick with Aang as a character in this live action, I felt like he was too serious.
Yeah.
Overall, I
At
thought
times, yeah.
throughout the show he was very task oriented, where in the original series he's a lot more like Luffy. He's like, let's have fun, let's do whatever. We'll get
to the Avatar stuff later.
Yeah, we'll get to what needs to be done. And kind of, Katara is kind of there to be like, Aang, like, we gotta get, like, she's kind of like
stuff together, dude. You're the freaking Avatar
adult of the group.
Yeah,
that's like, we need to go. You need to do this. We need to train, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
What did you think of the casting overall, though, for the characters?
Honestly, I didn't really have an issue with any of them. Like, I thought all the casting was pretty solid. Obviously, like, my favorite will always be Uncle Iroh. Like, great casting on that aspect.
Yeah, the casting. I think the Zuko and Uncle Iroh that dynamic was perfect.
Yeah. Sokka, I thought was really good. Even Aang, like,
Yeah, and since they're doing already renewed season 2 and 3, they're definitely gonna avoid the Stranger Things, or at least
the Stranger Things effect.
The best to the ability. They can't predict. The actor could have a massive growth spurt, but
so to give you guys context, what the Stranger Things effect is if you guys have ever watched Stranger Things, it takes like 2 or 3 years to do a production of each season. Okay, and the thing is that crazy concept. You age in 2-3 years, and when you're dealing with children actors or actresses a lot, they hit puberty.
Much bigger changes than just gray hair potentially.
Exactly. Right. So that's height and that's physical body changing. You know what I mean? So like the Stranger Things effect is that if you look at season 1 of Stranger Things versus season 4 of Stranger Things, and that's supposed to be 4 or 5 years in a story, and they've aged like 10 years, you can't have the 18-year-old playing a 12-year-old anymore. It's not the 90s anymore.
Yeah.
In the 90s, it was different. You were having people in their mid-20s and 30s play teenagers in high school. But it doesn't work that way, especially when you're telling a large story like that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's nice to see that it got renewed so quickly for both seasons. So we won't, even if it is done poorly, the story will be told.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
Start to finish.
And if I've learned anything, I think one thing that Star Wars has taught me is that original fans can be a bit defensive, passionate about their favorite series. But there are going to be new fans that love this series.
Yeah.
Because at the core, I feel like the main story will still be told. I'm hoping.
I think so far it is, minus a couple small things. But
I think some character personality or personality traits are missing. Katara felt a lot more dull.
Yep.
Very dulled down. I thought overall Sokka was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
I thought Zuko got probably more development than he gets in the animated series this early.
I would agree. I think in the live action show, him doing like the blue mask, like saving Aang in the show, I thought hit a lot more.
Yeah, and that was a lot earlier.
The animated show though.
Yeah, the way it was a little bit more. Yeah, I also liked the you mentioned this, which was they give backstory to Zuko's crew.
Yeah, that's the thing. A huge takeaway I enjoy is because in the anime show, the crew is just a bunch of nobodies. And then in the live action, it's the 41th Regiment or something like that, which
is who he was speaking out to.
Be like, you guys are just going to use them for sacrifices? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Which is still the reason he gets yelled at in the war room discussion. Yeah. He is like, we're going to send our people to die. Like, it just gives a little bit more, because obviously Zuko comes off as a very rash.
Yeah, teenager.
Rash, aggressive, angry, and also very driven to achieve his goal.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's the only thing he gives any care about.
Exactly.
And it just gives more for the audience to understand the complexity of the character earlier in the series than you get. Now you can argue whether that's good things or bad things, having that told earlier or later.
Yeah.
I don't mind it to set up the character as he's not evil.
Yeah.
I think that that's a good way. The scene with him and his Uncle Iroh when his cousin passes away and how he treats his uncle.
Yeah.
And Uncle Iroh says it even in the anime series, like he has a kind heart.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very good way of showing that.
It's the classic, like, not vigilante, but like the anti-hero who's just misunderstood. Like he's doing what he has to.
It's cliche sounding and seems cliche, but
they handle it well.
I thought it was handled pretty well as well. Obviously, we get an early introduction to Azula. I didn't mind. I
think for the most
she's
part,
crazy,
it made sense.
but she is one of my favorite characters in the series.
Yeah, it's everyone's favorite.
Like, obviously, they took away the blue fire.
Yep, hinted at.
So
we're hoping we'll see that later.
But made me sad because when I watched the series from a nostalgic glasses point of view, loved the blue flyer, thought it was sick.
Yeah.
Obviously, Azula also has lightning, which they also show early, which was cool. It was cool to see that lightning bending happening.
I'm hoping that it will probably be like a negative character development for her. Like, more frustrating she gets, that's when we'll see the blue flames, kind of.
Well, maybe. Or maybe we just have a little time skip and she's just stronger, I guess. And that could be a sign. I'm not sure. Yeah, but it could be maybe they use the blue fire as a sign of her deterioration of her mentality. Well,
because that's when you see the blue flames, is that everyone's like yelling at her to stop. And then you see it turn to a blue flame for a quick second. So it could just be like in full, like, leads to hate, leads to anger.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of situation. Dark side of the flames.
It's definitely possible. But yeah, there was a lot of changes. Some definitely like I just don't think that it really crazily affects the series. So I'm not upset about it, where I have seen people just hating on stuff like that. Where, does it really affect anything? Maybe
I think it makes the show
better.
stronger, because then it shows you the complexity between Zuko and his family and why it's so important for Zuko. Like, if anything, Azula coming in early helps character development for Zuko.
Yeah, another significant change is Aang steals Zuko's book.
Yeah.
His avatar book, air quotes there. And although this is not in the animated series, I kind of feel like it...
Thought it was a good plot device.
Yeah, exactly. In the animated series, we just accept that for the most part, Aang just adapts well to 100-year difference in the world.
Yeah.
And to be fair, not much seems to have changed other than the Fire Nation taking over. Like, the world is at war, but technology-wise, it doesn't seem like too much is really advanced. Yeah. So maybe that's not the big... But I did like that he's reading this book, and it's bringing him up to speed in a way.
Yeah.
So I thought that kind of just helped be, okay, so it's not as big of a shock because he has this book that he's reading that's kind of helping him understand some stuff. Even about himself as the Avatar, which is interesting. So that was it. That was a pretty significant change. I feel like we should talk about what I guess we would say is the biggest issue with the entire season.
That is Aang's ability of not learning waterbending?
That would be the lack of Aang waterbending.
Yeah.
Book 1 water.
Book 1 water, and we see it for a second, I think, right? In the spirit? No.
We see him...
It's super brief.
We also see him help Katara in how he sees bending, how he was taught to visualize and to help her. But in the anime series, he's doing it.
Yeah, he literally trains with the old dude
from
the Northern Temple.
But on their way there, he's training learning with Katara. Like, they're both doing it together. She's getting jealous because Aang's just getting it.
Yeah.
But also he's the Avatar.
But
that never happens.
Yeah.
In the same realm, Katara gets her waterbending scroll from a different source.
Her grandma gives it to her instead of them getting it from, like, pirates kind of situation.
Not the biggest deal. No. Important that she got the scroll. She has something that she's following. I did feel like it felt like she was getting too good too fast, I guess, without a lot of screen time of developing the skills.
I think that I would agree with that, especially when in the war at the end of season 1,
where she's fighting Zuko.
Well, not even that. I'm just thinking about, like, the younger kids coming up to me, like, "Oh, the old man said that you can, master Katari," and she's like, "Oh, he call me a master. And I'm like, you are
Yeah.
but a child.
Yeah, that was wasn't a big fan of that. Obviously, the Aang not getting waterbend, like that's a pretty big importance.
Pretty big miss.
Another big change was just Sokka and the Kyoshi warriors.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have the introduction of the village, and we have Suki, but now we have Suki's mom.
That's new.
Who's just annoying.
Yeah.
Because it creates this really unnecessary mother-daughter
that
dynamic.
we didn't need.
And in the animated series, obviously Sokka is quite sexist. You know, he's very, men protect a village. Men are warriors. Women can't be good fighters, good warriors. And obviously he gets totally wrecked. And after getting wrecked, he kind of starts to learn with them, learn to fight. He also wears
the Kyoshi warrior outfit.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a good sign of respect of going from this disrespectful spot, and he works his way to respecting them a lot and creates a relationship with Suki that way.
Yep.
Where they're bonding through where he was and where he becomes,
Yeah, exactly.
And understands. Whereas in the live action, he basically just, for the most part, kind of feels like he stays. Doesn't really change.
No.
His views are like kind of like, okay, I guess you guys are pretty cool.
I guess you guys can fight,
And Suki's just instantly into him, which I thought was also very
that one is
poorly handled.
Big difference.
Would have been a lot nicer. They could have had maybe like the cute eyes, but then more than just that one little spar they have.
Yeah.
To help progress the relationship. And it feels like another reason that Suki is into him is in defiance of her mom.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good way to, unfortunately, it's a good way to push that plot forward.
I just didn't want
when
the mom
they don't have time.
I just didn't want the mom. I didn't like her that much, and I liked like Suki kind of being the head.
That's fair.
She was cute actress. Yeah. But yeah, that was not handled. And on this point, this is another part where we see that Aang is not as fun and gets a little sidetracked, if you will, because at the end of the day, Aang is a kid.
Yeah.
In the village, in the animated series, he rides the giant fish, and he's just having a blast.
Yeah.
Didn't see any of that. Could be time restraints, could be CGI, obviously, for the big fish. Who knows what the real reasoning is? And I think the other thing was Aang goes into the Avatar state at that point.
Yeah.
But as
Kyoshi.
Which I don't believe is
Kyoshi's not even in season 1 at all to start.
Matt mentioned earlier off podcast was we only see Aang talk to the previous Avatar.
The fire Avatar, yeah.
Which is Roku.
Yeah.
So there was a couple times he spoke to different avatars earlier in this telling of his story. Not as big of a deal. We only saw Aang really use his the air scooter like once.
Yep.
Would have been nice to see it more. Commander Zhao, what you think of Commander Zhao?
Solid.
I thought it was pretty good. I liked the addition of having Azula being the puppet master.
Yeah.
I know that's a change, but that is very Azula.
It works for the character
and
for sure.
It gives the audience, because we don't know what Azula and her brother's relationship is. Obviously, we get to see how Azula's relationship is with her dad. We get to see how Zuko's relationship was with his dad. Mm-hmm. And we can definitely see who Teacher's Pet is, but also who may have, I guess, is more just like Ozai.
Yeah.
Like, has that fire in her and not the good fire.
Yeah.
And I really liked that you could see that she's a schemer. She's trying to screw over her brother. And I think it was a good way of...
I'm excited to see their chemistry on screen eventually.
Oh, like Zuko and her? Yeah. It should be interesting. But yeah, I thought that was a nice change. I thought, yeah, the puppeteering is so her, like doing stuff behind this, because she's a very interesting character where she's definitely not scared to get her hands dirty and do it herself.
Yeah.
But she also just loves screwing with people. So I thought that was pretty well done.
I thought a lot of the supporting cast was good too. Like freaking Abed from Community being the mechanist. I thought that was
interesting. Actually, the whole Amashu
subcast I thought was good. Like all the Amashu
sub arc,
characters.
I don't really know what to call it.
I'd say the Amashu arc, I guess.
Right. Obviously, we had some pretty significant changes, but mostly due to, I'm going to say timeline / fast forwarding in a way, like accelerating certain plots that happens within the arc.
Definitely.
Obviously, Zuko and Iroh don't go to Amashu. And another big thing is the whole way Aang interacts with Boomy is different. Because in the animated series, Boomy takes his friends, Katara and hostage. Yeah. And is like, they're going to die if you don't
just cutting
if you don't show off your strength, basically.
Yeah.
And that's completely different. Boomy he looked all right. I feel
for what they could do, I think it was
he
fine.
was a bit off-putting looking, which is, I mean, he kind of is.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, what are they supposed to do? If you want him to have a physical physique, you need him to be younger.
Exactly.
But
he needs
you
to
gotta
be
make
older.
him look old.
Yeah.
So I thought it was okay. And then
Amashu looked nice.
Amashu did look cool,
wise.
and they did have I was surprised, but they did show off the delivery service throughout, all the slides, which I thought was really cool. The city looked really nice. I do think that they rushed just a wee bit with the ragtag group of rebels.
Jet.
Yeah,
with
Jet and them.
It's not the Freedom Fighters, but it's the what are they called?
I think it might be the Freedom Fighters.
It's something like that.
But it felt a little bit more rushed.
Oh, that is the Freedom Fighters.
But
it did feel a little bit rushed, I agree.
I think overall the idea was kind of grasped as to what they are, who they are. The only issue is when we see them return later on, I don't think it'll be as impactful because we really didn't have the development that you get from the animated series.
Agreed.
So although it doesn't feel like the biggest deal now, I think it'll cost it later. That's,
Yeah.
They were my favorite characters in the show, but they do have an importance. So it is what it is.
Did you enjoy how they handled the whole Spirit Realm episode, with Sokka and Katari going into?
I didn't mind having both of them there because at the end of the day, could have been one, could have been the other, could have been both. It doesn't really make a difference to Aang's reaction.
Yeah.
Right? He would have done the same stuff to save them. So I didn't hate it. It was obviously we meet the princess earlier on.
Yep, which was different.
Which I thought was okay. It was kind of a way you could say that her and Sokka break the ice, if you will. Haha, get it? Because they're going to
Northern Temple.
Anyways, so I thought they broke the ice, which, considering that they fall in love, quotations, it at least gave them some pre-established banter and rapport. And she is this spirit.
I thought the fox looked clean. The three-tailed fox,
yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, it looked good. It looked good.
Nice Arctic nine-tails, you know what I mean? Nice low one nine-tails. I thought when we went to the Fire Nation, I thought it looked good. I thought the mask, like I know the mask is not a big deal. Like it was hard to mess that up if they did, but they didn't obviously.
What'd you think of the fight with Zuko and his dad? It was pretty good. I thought it was well done.
It was good. It was added to the story because that's not really shown too much in the animated show. Like it's all over. It's over the course of the 3 seasons. We see that fight here and there.
Yeah, they kind of
this
just
is
do
like
the
a
whole thing.
full-
The only thing is that I don't like now, because they did that whole story, and that is they don't do anything for Zuko's mom,
Yeah, there's a throwaway line for her.
right? Because in the original, there's a lot of Zuko. Obviously, his dad says that he's a lot like his mom, weak like his mother, or whatever.
Yeah,
But the whole reason there is no mom is pretty important to both Azula and Zuko.
Yeah.
Right. And that just is not covered. But the thing that annoyed me was it covered 2 major points with Ozai, but never mentioned that.
yeah,
Which is, if you've seen the original, it's that Ozai, when Uncle Iroh's son passes away, he's the next in line to be the Fire Lord,
yeah,
and he basically loses kind of like that. You could argue the will to live in a way when his son passes away, and then Ozai is kind of like, he's not fit to be. I'll be like next in line
Yeah.
or whatever, and then like his father is like, what did you say? Like, you will now know the pain of losing your firstborn child or whatever.
yeah, exactly.
And then it's supposed to be Zuko that dies, and it's heavily hinted at that
The mom.
Zuko's mom basically dies for Zuko.
Yeah,
That's what's heavily implied in the animated series. And obviously, in doing so, Iroh does give up his right to the throne. But that's pretty important. But we see the funeral for
Uncle
Iroh's.
Iroh's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It could come back in season 2.
it could.
Like
It
you know,
just-
it's just
weird that they showed that and they didn't cover it. And obviously
Yeah.
they hint at a bunch of times of him failing to take Ba Sing Se and
yeah.
right. So
What did you think of during the Spirit Realm episode? Jumping back to that for a sec, quick. Quack?
quacky
Oh,
quack.
quack. Quick second. With like Katari and Sokka seeing like those flashbacks kind of thing like that. So you see like Katari seeing like her mom get killed.
Yeah.
Thought that was, I didn't like that was insane.
That was
Me.
rough. Hard
And
to
then-
watch. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously Sokka like failing his test, but then them passing him anyways and getting like the pity vote. Like
Yeah.
feels bad.
It was good.
It was good character development, I think. Like that
Yeah,
definitely.
it was good for the characters. What else? What else is going on? We obviously meet Master Paku.
Yes, that's his name.
He's definitely sexist.
Oh yeah, did great.
Women belong in the healing huts, and
That's it.
and no fighting.
Exactly. No, ma'am.
And then Katara. See, this is the issue, like you mentioned.
This is where the big
Katara
difference is.
In the animated series, we see her constantly training and getting better and better and better.
We don't see
We
that.
really don't see that level of progression in
We
her.
saw Sokka train more than her.
Yeah, we really don't get that level of progression for her waterbending, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden she's able to hold her own against a master,
yeah.
a master, which I didn't like.
I mean, she still lost, which was great.
no, yeah,
like,
but I mean, she was holding her own,
yeah, which is not how it's supposed to be.
right? It would have been nice to actually see the development of her
Yeah.
skills through some other fights, and I understand it's probably not cheap to do some of these effects.
No, for
the
sure.
bending, right?
And then I think that also too, going based off that fight, is a big thing they skipped out on was the necklace. Like she's wearing the necklace, but that necklace is given from her mom, who was given from her grandma, kind of
Who
thing
is
like that.
Master Paku's like love
lover.
of his life? Yeah,
Yeah. So I think because in the show, that's why he like decides to train.
That's
her.
why he softens. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because he's like, oh crap.
Yeah,
Grandma.
that does not happen.
Yeah, that's not even mentioned. So that I think is kind of like a. I mean, I guess I understand. I don't actually. No, I
it
don't
would have been,
understand.
it would have been better with the necklace.
Yeah, I
100%.
don't understand why they
100% would have been better with the necklace. That weird scene with Momo getting healed and
Irrelevant. I
Yeah.
think that was just to showcase the potential power the water had.
Yeah, I guess the power of UA.
Doesn't
and
the
stuff.
master give Katari like a little bit of the water at the end? Like he gives her a little like container of the water.
But yeah, that was just weird. Unnecessary.
I agree.
Obviously that's in the finale. You also see Commander Zhao in the animated series. I think he gets yeeted by
Yeah.
Aang in
Uncle Iroh.
I think it's yeeted in the by the spirit.
Yeah, in the anime,
and in the live action, he gets
Uncle Iroh boots him.
which was cool because obviously he's defending his.
Yeah.
And I do love me some Uncle Iroh and Zuko relationship.
Another big thing too, based on that, is the dude who's supposed to marry the princess. In the live action show, he's like, "Yo, so what the Fire Nation Army? You know, what does their stuff look like?" But in the animated show, he's like wearing it all the time and everything like that because he's like thinks he's like top dog.
He thinks he's like a hot shot. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "Yo, it's me." And then in the show, I believe he infiltrates like a Fire Nation ship, and then he just gets like kicked right off the side of the boat. But in the live action show, he actually has like a warrior's fate, basically. Like he fights and dies during that war.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we mentioned that we did see lightning. That was cool.
Yep.
Obviously, much earlier than we do see it, but it's important. We'll see. It'll come up later. So
Exactly. We didn't see any swamp ending.
No, we didn't see swamp ending. The lightning was nice because it really shows how off, like how unstable, Azula is, because obviously she's getting annoyed with this testing that her dad's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then yeets a lightning bolt past his head. That's pretty Azula.
Exactly. I do think from a filmmaker standpoint, the score was really good. I enjoyed a lot. The music was great.
Pretty good, yeah.
It fit the bill. There was any off-putting sounds. I think all the sound quality was strong. All the special effects.
Overall, the special effects were solid.
Definitely I'd say an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement with that type of stuff. There were obviously scenes that were purposefully dark, you could say, but also makes sense that they're dark, like the Badger Mole.
Yeah.
I thought, but you're also in a tunnel. Hello, like obviously that's gonna be dark, but it was hard to make out the Badger Mole as much, which obviously is in favor of them. Big change at the end was Azula is the one that took Amashu, which I don't believe. I believe Amashu's not. He's either in the first early book 2. It's mentioned that it's taken.
Yeah,
it could be in the end of book. I can't remember, but it's not mentioned who does it. It doesn't matter that they mention it's her in this. I think it just is recognizing her strength as both a leader, but also this new adversary, right? That's coming. Mm-hmm. So I didn't hate it. Whatever. And that's the thing. I think overall for me, there's some changes that for me, you got to pick your battles. Aang not learning waterbending is unforgivable. That is definitely something that should have happened.
That's the biggest thing.
That should have happened. It should have been an easy thing to put in each episode. The progression of both him and Katara's waterbending.
Yeah.
Should have been super easy to throw in and should have been there. I do think Aang should have been a little bit more childish at heart. Felt way too serious. I think Katara could have had, and in doing so, that would have helped Katara's character with keeping Aang more focused.
Exactly.
And seeing more of her dedication to waterbending and training. Other than just like, oh, I got this scroll, and it's just assumed that she's doing it.
Part of me is scared that they're going to push certain stories back to try and milk it a little bit to get a season 4.
No, I don't think so.
I hope it's not that situation.
It feels very, we're going to tell book 2, all book 2, we're going to do all book 3. That's what it feels like.
I hope so.
We also got, in this series, we got the first of basically a big buildup of the entire, or a big part of the show, which is the comet.
Yeah.
I thought the comet prediction map thing was kind of cool looking.
Oh, at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked cool. What a cool
like
looking.
A 3D map
yeah,
style.
Cool contraption.
Yeah. And then he just turns the comet on fire too, just to touch it up a little bit more.
So obviously that's a big deal, big hint at what's to come, because we do see the comet in the first episode when they take out the aeronomads.
Yeah.
It's basically not necessarily told, but obviously we get the implication that they are stronger than they're at their strongest point because of this comet.
Yeah. So then I think in the show, I think it's like, oh, it's happening by the comet's coming back at the end of the summer kind of thing, which then puts the show on like a whole show takes place in like 2-3 months.
Yes.
But I think for storytelling wise, for the Netflix, I think it's going to have to happen over like a year or two.
We'll see.
Because of the Stranger Things effect plus like.
So overall, what would you rate this show out of 10?
It's like a 7.5.
That's pretty generous.
I don't know. I think like from a standpoint, if you've never watched the animated show, there's a story there, start to finish. You know, I think special effects, the acting, the music, like there's nothing like from a regular like common scrub, never watched it before. That's a good show.
I think taking into consideration source material, I think it's about a 6.
About a 6 for you?
I think they had good elements to that they can improve on and continue.
Yeah.
And they also have, thankfully, like Netflix has a lot of money. So the benefit is, and the hope is, they take the criticism from season 1 and they improve upon it going
Season
into
2.
the following seasons.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
The worst they can do is put less effort into it and it just gets progressively worse. Because we're not, in my opinion, this should be a starting point and going up. Improve. Do better.
Yeah. It's a good basis.
In no way do I want to see
it go downhill.
and go down.
Yeah.
There's no excuse with the amount of money and the amount of criticism, and I'm sure there are people that are giving good points as well. And just take those into the writing room and into filming.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that's too hard. Is there anything you're excited to see in the series, knowing that we will be getting the whole story?
I mean, I'm excited to see who they're going to cast for Toph.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
That's my big
Toph
thing.
as an entire character is very interesting.
Yeah, so I'm curious how they're going to do that.
And her relationship. I'm interested to see if they're really going to go in on the twinkle toes, if they're really going to go into her quick wit with like Sokka and stuff.
I mean, I'm excited to see like her fighting scenes.
Yep.
Like that's going to be...
The thing I'm looking most forward to, one, is the entire sequence with the comet and the final fight.
Yeah.
Obviously, that goes without saying. But I'm looking forward to seeing the flashback with Roku.
Okay.
And the fight with Sozin before the initial, because that's the original, right? Like they're gonna start the he's part of the Fire Nation, and then he figures out that his best friend has the plan. I think that's one of my favorite like stories in it. In
it's
the
a
entire
solid
series.
story, that's for sure.
I also, I'm looking forward to seeing dragons.
Yeah, true that.
But yeah, we were going in with low expectations, and
Is it better than expected or worse than expected for you?
Maybe slightly better.
Okay.
I think I would have had higher expectations if the creator stayed on the whole time.
Yeah.
But with him leaving, definitely dropped massively. And I was like, well, because, okay, if we're being honest, basically my expectations were, please do not be as bad as the movie.
Yeah.
So from that, not that that's a high bar, but they did pass that.
Yeah.
Right?
They did.
There's room for improvement. There's a lot of room for improvement. And as long as they keep some of the elements they had that were good, I think there is potential for season 2 and season 3 to hit it out of the park. I think they got to make some changes for sure, but it has potential. Mostly due to the act. I think for the most part, a lot of the actors were very solid.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Kind of goes down to some of them were maybe not as great, but I think that's due to writing.
Yeah.
You can obviously tell a lot went into the Iroh and Zuko relationship, which I love because personally I love that duo in the entire series. So I don't mind the amount of screen time. I don't mind their dialogue. But yeah, I'm hoping this is the start and we work our way up, and season 3 is an absolute banger.
I think another big takeaway, this is just like an Easter egg, is that James Tsai voiced his character and was also the same guy in the live action appearance.
Is that the cabbage guy?
That's the cabbage guy. That's just like something super random.
That's also was he not the voice of Jackie Chan in Jackie Chan Adventures?
I'm pretty sure Jackie Chan voiced Jackie Chan.
I don't think so. Oh yeah, he voiced Jackie Chan. I know he has taken over roles from Jackie Chan before, so he's voiced like Master Monkey and some of the Kung Fu Panda stuff. Yep.
But
there you go, fun fact for y'all. But yeah, overall, if you're not an Avatar fan, I would say you probably will enjoy it. You will notice that there are probably some flaws within the storytelling. If you are an Avatar fan, you got to go in with an open mind.
Yep.
And just... It's not made for you, I think is... we said this for the One Piece live action.
Yeah, it's not made for the hardcore fans. I'm sorry.
It's not made for the hardcore fans. It's made to get new people. You know what's going to be made for Avatar fans? That sequel animated series that's coming out with Aang as an adult.
Exactly.
That is for Avatar fans.
Yep.
If that is really bad, then you can be upset.
Then you screw the pooch.
But that is what's made for the hardcore. And they've been waiting for a long time.
100%.
Not that Legend of Korra is bad.
No.
I enjoy Legend of Korra. But let's face it. When there was a sequel to Avatar, that's what everyone was wanting.
Yeah, exactly.
So excited for that. I guess on average, we give it like a 6.75 out of 10.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Let us know what you guys think. Are you massive Avatar fans? Are we just crazy? Are we just being too nice? We're trying not to be just crapping on it like everyone else. Let us know. We have a Discord, so link for that will be in our link tree down below. And yeah, check out the podcast. Let your friends know. We're on every major podcast platform as well as YouTube.
Exactly. So yeah, and stay tuned for the next 2 episodes because they're going to be some juicy, fun style episodes.
There'll be some fun episodes for sure.
I'm excited. You should be too.
Okay, I will.
I was talking to the people listening to.
Oh, you were looking right at me.
You should be too excited too, Connor.
All right. Until next week.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.